Welcome to Nystrom Education. Nystrom Education is your source for everything social studies. I'm Pam Gothard, Professional Learning Director, and I'm delighted to have you joining us today. Active Classroom is a content and skill-based resource just waiting to be used. Today we're going to explore how to create a meaningful curriculum using Active Classroom. For our model today, we're going to use Colonial America. Of course, we'll begin by logging into our account, going to www.active.socialstudies.com to log in. That's www.active.socialstudies.com. Once you've logged in, we're going to go to our home page, and from the home page, we're going to select Content in our gray toolbar and go to Find Activities. When you get to this page, you'll notice a pop-up box appears. This is called Hopscotch. It'll walk you through everything on the page and teach you how to use everything. I suggest you give it a try, especially if you are new to Active Classroom. However, for today, we won't be using Hopscotch, so if you'll click the X, it'll disappear. So let's begin by selecting what we want to use as our search tools for today to build our unit on Colonial America. We're going to use for our subject U.S. history, and for era theme, we're going to use Colonial America, and then we're going to click search. So we're going to start building our unit by first searching and seeing what's available. Notice how the information below has changed to meet the criteria that I put in. If we scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll see that there are 8 pages of resources to meet the criteria for Colonial America. That's quite a lot to go through. It's more than I want to go through. That's 160 resources. So I think we need to narrow our search a bit. So let's think about Colonial America and just one aspect of Colonial America that we could zero in on. How about French and Indian War? Let's use French and Indian War as our subcategory. I put French and Indian War into the keyword search, and I'm going to click search again and reorganize our search to meet this criteria. As you can see, our search list has now changed. Let's see how many resources we have now. Okay, no additional pages, so now we have approximately 20 resources. That's a much more manageable number for our search today. So before we begin exploring Active Classroom and trying to figure out which activities we want to use, I want to share with you our scaffolded chart here that takes all of the resources in Active Classroom and puts them into 4 different categories: unit starters, overreaching frame, topic specific, and culminating. It gives us some ways to maybe design our curriculum so that we're covering everything that we need. For this unit, I don't plan to use a culminating activity because I'm going to wrap the French and Indian War into the larger picture of Colonial America. So let's begin with a unit starter. Our unit starters are those things that help us to get students interested in the subject as we dive in. Let's look at all those that are available under unit starters for possibilities. Well, I see a range of things from atlases to backward planning PowerPoints, and I see some Common Core activities and decision-making activities. Well, decision-making activities are one of my favorite activities in Active Classroom, so I know I'm excited about that. Let's go back now to Active Classroom and see how we can make use of this. So now we're back on Active Classroom, and we want to think about those things that we saw as unit starters. Possibilities for getting the lesson going. Well, I already mentioned that decision making is one of my favorite activities, so I want to hop right on over and take a look at that one. So let's look at decision making activities and see what it has to offer. Causes of the French and Indian War are certainly within that scope of what we want to look at today, but I need to get a better look at what is offered in this particular session. So I'm going to click on Student Handouts. So the first thing you get in a decision-making activity is a list of vocabulary. Now, not every activity in Active Classroom starts with vocabulary, but every decision-making activity does. Let's see what else is available. So the first thing you come to then is the problem. In decision-making activities, what I really like is the fact that they offer the students a problem. They have to grapple with, what did this real person do? What kind of decision did they actually make? And in this particular activity, we see that there are three perspectives that are going to be considered: a French nobleman, an Iroquois chief, and the governor of Virginia. The problem for the French nobleman is the French have had settlers there, but have controlled the trade in the Ohio Valley for many years, a trade that is essential to the whole financial stability of French Canada. Now it looks like that system of trade is being threatened. The drop in trade at Detroit is especially worrisome. A year ago, French officials clearly marked out claims to the Ohio Valley, but the English colonists ignored the claims and kept moving into the area. So what I would do is have the class divided into three groups and let them take on these different roles and grapple with what decision each of these major players made. I can tell you this looks very appealing to me for my session on the French and Indian War. Let's see what comes next. Next comes the outcome. So once the students have grappled with what to do, now they get what actually did happen. Well, I'm really liking this activity, and most decision-making activities end with a primary source. I'm saying this is a great starter, and I've got a winner. So let's start building our activity set, or you might think of it as a lesson plan, something you could use over the course of multiple days or a week. So I'm going to add the decision-making activity to our activity builder. Now, I need to add to it a name for the activity set and keyword. So for the name of the activity set, I'm going to use French and Indian War, and for keyword, I'm going to use Colonial America. Remember, the more keywords you set, the more you have to remember. So I kind of keep mine in large chunks of time frames. Okay, so now we've done unit starters. Let's go back to our chart again. So now we're ready to think about overarching frame and how we can now build upon that unit starter. Let's look at those activities that come under overarching frame. Well, I can see from looking at this that the overarching frame focuses a lot on reading, has some videos, it has backward planning PowerPoint, which I'm very interested in. So let's go over to our list of available resources and see what we can find, keeping in mind some of those things that we just see there as overarching frame. Well, I was hoping to see a backward planning PowerPoint here, but I don't. So we'll focus then on reading. Let's go down and find our first reading, and that's going to be Power Basics. So let's take a look at Power Basics and see what it has to offer. Well, one of the things I really like about Power Basics is this orange box at the bottom of the screen. It tells you what the goal of the reading is all about. Well, it's interesting. Let's take a little bit further look and see what's available. Okay, I'm looking now in my table of contents and don't really see what I want to find on the French and Indian War. Let's try looking a little further. So now that we've already looked at Power Basics, let's look at our next reading. The next reading available is from Storyteller's History. Well, I really like Storyteller's History too. Let's take a look. How to Start a Revolution. Well, the main part about the French and Indian War that I really like is that it does lead to the American Revolution. So let's see. In our table of contents, step 1 is kick out the French. That's a positive in the right direction. So let's take a look. Well, it doesn't really give me nearly as much as I was hoping for. So while it's good, it's too short for what I need in this particular place. So let's go back to our search and see what other reading we have available. Our last reading option is U.S. History Readers. Let's take a look at that and see if it has something a little more meaty for us. Well, let's see. The French and Indian War and Problems of Empire. This is looking good. Looks interesting at the moment. Let's take a look at some of the things in the table of contents and see what we come up with. Let's open that. Okay, now we're getting to some interesting information. Instructions for George Washington. That sounds interesting, especially since it's almost like he single-handedly started the war. We got a primary source. Okay, that's good. It's looking better. Let's see what else. Who started the war? Okay, very good. And student activities. Okay, now this is looking a little meatier and what I really needed for kind of a overall view of the French and Indian War. So let's go back, and now I'm ready to put that piece into our activity builder, and I'm going to do that by selecting that check mark and moving it over into the activity builder. So now we're really getting this little unit put together nicely, and I'm very excited about what I'm seeing. Let's go back to our chart and look at our next step. So our next step is getting to more topic-specific pieces. Well, actually, all of our pieces are topic-specific, and they really do build background knowledge. But let's just say this area is kind of like a specialty area, you might say. Let's see what's available under topic-specific. Well, we see again we have atlases and readings and videos. Okay, so quite a lot here. So let's keep in mind some of these general areas and go back to our search for French and Indian War and see what we can find. Okay, so let's see. Well, we see an atlas there at the beginning. So let's take a look at the atlas and see what it has to offer. Okay, the French and Indian War changes America. Yes, that is certainly of interest. So let's take a look in our table of contents there. All right, a timeline. Timelines are great for helping our students to understand the context in which things occur. So I'm liking that. Let's see what else we have. Okay, so we have some very specific pieces here. I like that. I love maps. Maps really just help make concrete visual representations for students in ways that sometimes reading text just doesn't. So I like a map whenever I'm working with any period of social studies. So this is looking really good as we look at time and change. I mean, we're looking at really important parts of social studies. And then look at this. We're getting, here's a little quick check for understanding and kind of wrapping it up as we think about history. I would say we have another winner here. This looks really nice. I think the students will really engage with the visual pieces, with the short chunks of text. It'll be good for my students who aren't on grade level readers. So this is a definite I want to use for the activity set. So we're going to move that atlas over to our activity set. And so now we're really getting into getting our unit put together. I've got a little over 2 days worth of material so far. So let's see what else we have available in our selections here. Well, the next one that we have available is debating the documents. I love debating the documents. Another one of my favorite pieces. So let's take a look at this one. Okay, so in debating the documents, there's a lot we could look through here to kind of get an idea of what's best. But one of my quickest ways to do that is by going to the introductory paragraph or the introductory essay. This will give me the best information about what's actually going to be covered. So let's take a look. So as I just kind of scan over my introductory essay here, while it's really good and very interesting, I don't think this really meets the need I have right now for my unit on French and Indian War. So I'm going to skip this one. Let's go back and see what the next available resources are. We have History Unfolding. Yay! I like History Unfolding too. Looking at the titles here, I'm pretty sure that farmers and planters aren't quite what I'm looking for, but social conflict and political life. That has some interest. Let's check it out. Let's open that up. One of the things I love about History Unfolding is the orange box here at the bottom, where it tells you what all of the images have to do with one another. So I can look there and kind of get an idea if this is really the direction I want to go or not. Okay, this is, yeah, it's really good, but not quite what I want for this particular lesson. So I'm going to skip that one. And let's see what we have next in our selections here. So now we have opportunity to preview a video. This is Turning Points in History, the French and Indian War. And rather than opening up and watching the whole video, just to get a little preview of it, I'm going to use the information button. And here's what I can see about this video. It's the French and Indian War produced American war leaders such as George Washington, and in founding America led to the American Revolution. Okay, that is huge, because one of the biggest things, as I mentioned earlier, about the French and Indian War to me is the groundwork it lays for going into the American Revolution. So this is very exciting. I like that. But let's check out the other videos and see what we have. Let's see, we have one on the Ohio Land Company being established, and that really isn't quite my area yet either. But then we have the Unfinished Nation, the 7 Years' War. Let's see what it has. Okay, in 1754, the long-standing struggle between France and England erupts in the 7 Years' War with the building of Fort Duquesne in the Ohio Valley. I think the other video is a little bit better fit for what I was looking for. So let's go back, and I'm going to use that Turning Points video. I think this is going to give me the mix I really wanted. So looking at my lesson now, I have 3 days of material. And while it's really a good-looking set, I still was really hoping to find a backward planning PowerPoint, not because I want to use the whole PowerPoint, but because those PowerPoints offer so many different segments within one large topic. So I want to see if I can find something on French and Indian War. So I've kind of exhausted my search here, but searching in Active Classroom is like searching in Google or any other type of digital resource. So I want to maybe go back and see if I can find some additional pieces by using a slightly different search. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back up to the top of the screen, and I'm going to add Colonial America to my keyword search and just delete everything else and just do that keyword, because remember, I'm really interested in a backward planning PowerPoint. So let's do that. And yes, there's what I was looking for, the backward planning PowerPoint for Colonial America. And let's see, and hopefully we're going to find in it some slides that have to do with French and Indian War. So let's open it up and check it out. So when we come to our opening page for the PowerPoint, I can tell that there's a great introduction here, but I really want to open that PowerPoint up and see what it has to offer. So let's open the PowerPoint itself, and the opening slide is always of interest, but let's take a look at the essential questions. That's really what's going to help me to know if French and Indian War is going to be found in this or not. The essential questions are the big ideas that are found throughout the PowerPoint and what the students are going to be focusing in on. So let's look at these. And look at this. The fifth bullet down, how did issues in North American colonies lead to conflicts among European superpowers? Well, I'm just kind of guessing that refers to the French and Indian War. So let's scroll down through here a little bit and find, here at slide 63, I have the beginning of the French and Indian War. Okay, and then we have the 2 slides with slide 64. Let's see what other slides are available. Okay, all the way down to slide 71. Great. So I've got several good slides here on the French and Indian War, and then my discussion questions are going to help tidy that up with what were the causes of the war, the advantages. Okay, this is exactly what I was looking for. A little something to give me that just overall picture of what's occurring with the French and Indian War. So let's go back now, and we're going to take that backward planning PowerPoint. We're going to add that over to our activity builder. Okay, so my activity builder looks like it's done. I've got, let's see, that's going to give me a little more than 3 days. Now, backward planning PowerPoint says 100 minutes. But remember, we're only using about 10 slides out of that. So we're only using a slice of that particular activity. So we're not really going to have a whole week worth of activity here. It's a little over 3 days. So I think that's going to be a nice amount of material to cover for French and Indian War. So I'm going to save that activity, and look at that. I have a, oops, something went wrong. One of the great things I like about Active Classroom is when you do make a mistake, it tells you what it was that you did wrong so that you know exactly what it is you have to fix. So it says that the name that I gave my activity set's already taken. So I need to change the name from French and Indian War. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add Unit 2 colon French and Indian War and see if that works. So let's give that a shot. And ta-da! I now have a well done. So I changed the name and all is good. Now, I have some options as a teacher. Do I want to assign this activity set out to the students, or do I want to use it primarily as whole class instruction? Well, for now, I'm going to show you how to assign the entire set out to the students so that they have access to it. It could be that you want them to have access so that as they're preparing for whatever culminating activity you come to, that they'll have this in their resource bag to go back and review from. So we're going to use the button here that says Assign, and we're going to assign out the entire set. So here we are on New Assignment. And we're going to select which classes we want to use. We're going to use first and second period for this one. And you can see that what we're doing when we select those by clicking that check mark, it moves them from that left-hand column to the middle column. Now we need to add our directions. And the only activity that I really want them to engage in by themselves is the reading. And I do want them to highlight in the reading. So I need to tell them what to highlight, and then I need to set that highlighting by clicking that orange highlight button. So I'm going to go to my highlights now, and I'm going to add my highlights for the students to use. Now, I'm strange. I never like to use the ones that are pre-made. I always just click the delete button and get rid of all of those, and I start fresh. So I'm going to add my first thing I want them to highlight is cause. I'm going to use cause, effect, and cause and effect. So here I'm going to do cause, and I'm going to select a color and do add highlight. So I'm building my highlights for the students to use with this lesson. I'm going to use effect and cause and effect. So I've built my highlights for the students, and now I click done, and I'm back to my other page again. So now I want to look at the assignment. And the one thing I really want to focus in on here that I don't usually do is I want to preserve the activity order. I don't want the kids to work ahead. I want them to do it in the order that I prescribed. So that means that they can't jump ahead and go into an activity until we've already finished the previous ones. And then I set the lock, unlock date, and the due date, and save assignment, and it's now in the students' accounts. Okay. So now, that was one way to assign out the activity set to all of my students. But what did I mention about I really only wanted the students to engage with one of those. The rest I'm going to be using for whole class instruction. Which one was it I wanted to assign out individually? You're right. It was the reading. So let's go back and find our set and assign out just the one piece. And we'll use the rest of it for whole class instruction. So I'm going to come back up here to the top. What was my keyword? Colonial America. and then I search, and I have to click this My Activity Sets tab. Notice here the white tab out of these slightly blue ones. I have to go to My Activity Sets because I've already created the set and I want to save it. So here I can now find my activity set, and I want to use the View button. It's the View button that's going to allow me to use it in whole class instruction, as well as I can go in now and assign out that one activity that I do want to assign to students. So let's open using the View button, and here's our set. Now, you might also notice just at the top of our set here, it gives the total duration time, which again, keeping in mind that we're not using the entire backward planning PowerPoint, so rather than 100 minutes, we're probably looking more at 20 or 30 minutes. So it's a little bit less than what they have here. But it also gives me the skills and assessment types that we're using during these resources. So here, I can now use the View button and lead the decision making as a whole group. I can use the View button for the atlas, or I could assign it individually, whichever I decide to do there. For the video, I'm going to watch that whole class, and for the backward planning point, I'm going to do that whole class. So let's just say for now we're going to assign just the reading. Let's go to the reading and the symbol here for assign, and we're going to assign it out the same way we did the entire collection, by selecting the periods we want to use, by writing our instructions, by adding our highlights, unlocking it, setting a due date, and saving. This process is identical to the other process, and ta-da, we're done with assigning out just the one assignment that we really want the students to have hands-on to. So let's just review a little bit. First of all, when we're looking at building a meaningful curriculum, we want to put in those pieces that will help us to really frame that in a way that engages our students. And if we think about those things that help us engage students, using that scaffolded chart is going to be very helpful to you. Let's go in and look at our review questions. I began searching by using what? What did I use to start our search today? Yeah, I used subject and era theme. I did U.S. history, Colonial America, but that was a little broad. So what did I go in and do after that to narrow our search? Right, I added keyword and I added French and Indian War. What did I use in conjunction with Active Classroom to make this meaningful curriculum come together? Right, I used a scaffolded chart, and I'm going to email it to you guys right after our session today so that you have it in your toolbox. How did this document assist me? How did the chart help me work through developing my resources, my activity set? Well, it helped because it gave me those different categories and helped me kind of walk through the building of my activity set. As I found the resources in Active Classroom that I wanted to use, what did I do with them? Right, I put them in the activity set. It's kind of like you're building your own playlist. You build your activity sets, and then when you go to search and you use your keyword from those activity sets, you'll find them under My Activity Sets tab. Keep that in mind. You always have to choose that correct tab. What two ways can I then assign this collection of resources to students? Okay, we just did two different ways. What were the two different ways? We assigned the entire collection, or we can assign an individual assignment, just one particular activity. Great job. I hope all of you have enjoyed the webinar today and going through and looking at Active Classroom and using our scaffolded chart and being able to put together an intentional curriculum that has real meaning to it that will really capture the attention of your students. I know that Robert Marzano says in the Highly Engaged Classroom that we want to first gain the attention of our students, and so that starter is always very important. So keep in mind when you get your chart to go through and look at that as you're planning your lessons for the week, and have that piece that really generates interest for your students and gets them motivated and interested in learning about whatever subject you are delving into. Thanks for joining today. A recording of today's webinar will be posted at the website you see on your screen if you want to jot that down. I'd love for you to share our videos with other colleagues, or if you would like to just watch this again for your own needs, then we would be glad for you to do that as well. Again, I'm Pam Gothard, Professional Learning Director for Nystrom Education, and it's been my pleasure to work with you today. I hope that you enjoy your use of Active Classroom, and if we can be of any assistance, don't hesitate to reach out.